easiest way to prevent addiction would be to stop it before it ever starts. But how can we get in front of such a formidable disease? We have assembled some of the top prevention minds in our county to discuss prevention inside and out. Debbie, one of the things that when we were talking in our segment about some of the stuff you have going on in the county, do you get have you noticed that you've gotten a lot of support from the recovery community, like being involved and trying to help with some of the things that you're doing?
Absolutely. We have a great relationship with our recovery peers at the health department, at the hospital, and also our recovery community. We've got a number of folks involved with our coalition and working on our overdose response team. But what I love is when they want to be involved in things that we haven't even thought about how they might be involved in. And I think the one event that was most fun for me this year was the Say No to Dope Walk. And in that event, we partnered with Triangle Recovery, and we just had a blast. And the softball game was probably really the best part of all.
Yeah.
And having done it for the first time, now I can see why that's such a wonderful way to bring recovery and law enforcement together.
Yes, yeah, we definitely were really excited about that event, and having the recovery community maybe seen in a more positive light, and being able to support these efforts, these prevention efforts in the county.
One of the things with that event was the softball game was law enforcement versus recovery. And Shannon can attest to this. The recovery community has some serious softball players. And so they came out in uniform, ready to play, and I think the law enforcement team is really good, but they weren't expecting a team to show up like they showed up. So I think next year I'm really excited to see to be a part of the walk and also to be a part of watching the softball game. Yeah. Brad, one of the things we were talking about with the school programs is I know there's an 8th grade program and then there's one that is done for the juniors and seniors. What's the difference in the two? What's the difference in the two?
Well, the middle school program, the one for 8th grade, is really geared towards refusal skills, learning how, when they're put in a situation, how to refuse and make the proper decision that's going to be healthy for them and it's not going to be or affect those in their lives in a negative way. The high school for the juniors and seniors, again, this is my first year seeing this program, but my take on it is allowing students to see what it's like if you were to make that decision to engage and what your life can be like after, and then with the prevention and the recovery that's in place, what it can be like if you make that change as well.
Yeah, I look at the special ops, which is opiates, opiate prevention and teen support,
Yes.
which is what the acronym is, but I look at that kind of like a what if you said yes? Mm-hmm. You know, not that we're encouraging that, but what if you say yes? Because some people are going to say yes, they're not going to say no, and it gives them some ideas of where they can get help and also help family members.
Absolutely, and it's good that we have that program in place, because if you were to say yes, so many times, you know, you start to feel that you disappointed someone, and you hold yourself accountable very inside and hurt yourself. Whether it's physically or just emotionally, where you put yourself down or you don't know who to reach out for help. So being able to have that presented to our students, if they were to engage at a function somewhere, where they can turn then afterwards before it goes too far.
Yeah. That's similar to, back to the Guiding Good Choices. There's also a weekly session in there for refusal skills as well, and it's for the parents and adults, because like you just said, the adults have already said yes, right? So then in return, how do you teach your offspring to say no? And not every child will say no. So how do you do that? And it's in that curriculum, it shows, how to have a family meeting, like you were just mentioning, Brad, and who to talk to. How can I come back to my mom and say, hey, I made this decision, and it may have not been the right one, but now what do I do? I'm in hot water. clearly mom helped me get out, but what are my avenues? What are some of my resources? Where can I go? So it's very important, and it's awesome to see that you guys are doing that as well at different levels with middle school and high school. So that's awesome.
One of the things that we talk about, and I've heard you mention it actually at an event we were at not long ago, that Debbie, I think the coalition put on, where we had the Good Samaritan, where we had some of my colleagues, actually my bosses from the state's attorney's office did a presentation. Can you explain a little bit about how you talk about the Good Samaritan Law and what it is in the community that you work with?
So the way that I kind of sum it all up is the 3 W's. If you can remember the 3 W's, then you're pretty much good to go. And that is weight, warrants, and weapons. So with the Good Samaritan Law, if you are, engaging in substance use and someone becomes ill, you call. If it's clearly that you guys were just using and this emergency happened, then you'll be good to go. If you're not looking as if you were distributing, not have enough paraphernalia or enough drugs on you to look like you were the distributor, you're good. Mm-hmm. If you had prior warrants, that doesn't cover you for that. And clearly if you have any weapons. So that really helps the community that I work with because, the law is amazing, but reading it in the format that it's written can sometimes be intimidating, right? And it can force my friends away to say, well, I don't want to get in trouble. And I just say, hey, sum it up to the 3 W's, you're good to go. But either way, you still want to push the message to save someone's life, right? So
a lot of times we're too wordy with the way we try to explain something. And when I heard you say that the other day, and it just really resonated with me, weight, warrant,
and weapons.
And I think that's good. And you learn to adapt to the people that you're presenting to. And I really like that. I'm going to use that.
Yeah, keep it going. I actually got that from the peer supervisor at the health department, Stacia Smith. So she's mentioned that.
I can see her. I can see that coming from her.
Yeah. So it just stuck, and if it was something that I wasn't as familiar with prior to hearing it, because I heard it in the non-condensed version, right? And she just condensed it for me. And I'm like, well, it makes sense to me. Let's see if it can help someone else. And that's ultimately the goal for all of us, is to just give the information that we have and try to make a difference for someone else, see whatever sticks. It's better to help one than none.
Yeah. Shannon, does the Triangle Recovery Club, does it open the doors for different things? I feel like in years past, I know we've had Narcan trainings and different things there. Is that something that you would open up to have different kind of prevention programs? Obviously opposite hours of when there's 12-step meetings, but is it something that would be available?
Yes, absolutely. And we have done that in the past, and have also hold other types of meetings as well for people in the community if they want to plan for events and things like that. Yep, we're open.
That's good. We have about 1 minute. So what I'm going to do is have each one of you just share what's the best way to open that conversation to talk about prevention, whether it be with kids, whether it be with parents that are dealing with substance use themselves, just to be able to open up that conversation.
Okay, so
I'll start with you.
Okay, no problem. My go-to is just simply ask. Let's just make it simple. I like to simplify it all. If you don't know, ask. What is prevention to you? If there's anything that needs to be clarified or that we can go over together and make a better understanding between me and the other individual, because it's not my job to persuade you. It's my job to just give you information, and it's up to you what you do with it. But I can't assume that you know anything or assume that you know what prevention is, or harm reduction for that matter. So to simply ask the question and then go from there, meeting the individual where they are.
That's perfect. I like that. Brad?
Well, I look at it from two different hats that you can wear. You know, being in the classroom, I might approach it a little differently. I might ask them by putting them in a scenario role play situation. That if you're in this situation, do you know what to do? Do you know who to turn to? What are the steps in their decision making and refusal skill process that we've done? Being able to actively implement those things. Now, if I was as a parent, I may just, as you put it, just simply ask.
Yes.
What would you do? And
Open
if you-
communication,
yeah,
just open
absolutely. And sometimes it's good to just be straightforward like that.
Yeah.
No deviation, just straightforward to the point.
Yep. Debbie?
I think about meeting them where they are, no matter who you're talking to, whether it's your child, whether it's an adult out in public. I think that you have to just start where it is, what you're seeing, what you're concerned about, and be honest about it. What I wanted to also share is that we do have some conversation starters in the form of brochures in our office
Yep.
at the Carroll County Health Department that are especially helpful for parents and grandparents who may be raising their grandchildren as well.
Yeah.
And so in addition to information, we do have some helpful things like that. So
That's really good.
Recommend
I'm glad you put that out there, that people don't think about grandparents. Grandparents are going to be involved and need to have a lot of this information. Shannon?
I would think from my perspective, it's really sharing personal experience of what it's like to go down that road,
Yes.
right? And trying to let people learn from my mistakes,
Yeah.
right? Just being genuine, open, honest, and letting them ask me anything that they would want to know.
Yeah.
You know, with my, and as a parent with my own children included.
Yeah.
So that's from my perspective as already being, you know, being in the recovery community, having said yes, unfortunately, to the, you know, prevention, that's how I would
Yeah.
approach it.
I want to thank each and every one of y'all. I have the pleasure of working with all of y'all on a level that no other county gets to have, in my opinion. And I love doing that. I'm in recovery, so I'm in recovery with Shannon, and I get to see her at different places throughout the county, and so I really appreciate you guys coming out.
Thanks for having us.
too.
As you have heard, there are some great efforts happening around prevention here in Carroll County. And the more individuals and organizations that join in the fight, the more lives we can save. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Real Talk.